Well, that's bad, so we should fix that. And we use this to help reduce chords, to reduce the key length of commands in Beta 2. And you can see we've marked some ones in yellow that we wanted to go through. In fact, these seem to have missing things in it. But these are all ways that we use the data to help us make informed decisions about how to improve the UI. So the next phase, after all the research, was the formulation of design tenets. So here's how I think about design tenets. So you want to get to that mountain up there. That mountain is what you all visualize is the ideal for us, the ideal Office 2007 UI. We all agree on that. That's sort of our design tenets. Well, how do you get there? How do you get from that house, even though you can see that mountain, how do you know what trail that you take that will actually lead you to the top of that? That for us is the design tenets. That's the thing that says, we're going for this mountain, what's the path that we need to take to get there? So, does anyone know who this is? This is Igor Stravinsky, modernist Russian composer from the beginning of the 20th century. And he was composing music at a time when the rules of classical music were changing. And everything was possible. Like, none of the rules of the 19th century applied anymore. He was a modernist. And anything was possible, right? You didn't have any rules. And he was struggling to define what the new rules were. He was the one who wrote The Rite of Spring, which you're hearing now from Fantasia, that was so radical at its first performance in 1913 in Paris. The people literally rioted. The people got up out of their seats and rioted and started the lobby on fire and all ran out. And this is what Stravinsky had to say. He said, I feel a sort of terror when, finding myself before the infinitude of possibilities that present themselves, I have the feeling that everything is permissible. If nothing offers me any resistance, then every effort is inconceivable, and consequently every undertaking becomes futile. He's saying when there's no rules, nothing to help you make decisions, then it's impossible to do anything. You're so awestruck by all the possibilities that exist that you literally don't know what to do. So design tenets are designed to help us make decisions so that it doesn't feel like there's no rules. So we had these 4 goals that actually came from the fish. Making the software easier to use, helping save people time, like making them more efficient, helping people discover more of the power of Office, and help people create beautiful, powerful documents. We felt like if we solved these 4 goals, that we would have a successful UI redesign. And so we had to come up with the design tenets that we felt like if we followed them, would lead us to that mountain, right? This was the mountain. The design tenets were the path to take to get there. And here were the design tenets that we came up with. A person's focus should be on the content, not on the UI. Help people work without interference. Interference for us was Clippy popping up, toolbars popping up, just junk popping up everywhere. Help people work without interference. Reduce the number of choices presented at any given time. This is about contextualization. When there's 1,500 commands in Office, it's impossible to have them all memorized. So you have to find a way of only showing the table tools when you actually have a table up. Otherwise, you'll get swamped. Increase efficiency. We know that if you can improve people's efficiency, they'll react positively. Consistency over homogeneity. Having consistency between Word and Excel is good, but if you don't let Excel be Excel and Word be Word, then they're going to feel unnatural. This was about bringing out the soul of the software. Giving features a permanent home. So this was about, there's one place to go find a command, as opposed to smart UI like IntelliJunk that would sort of move the command stuff around for you. This is like there's just a straightforward place for it to be. And finally, straightforward is better than clever. This was a reminder to ourselves not to over-design, that every time we come up with a clever, super optimized solution, that it would be better to go back to the straightforward thing, because no one would understand the super clever thing except for us. And so this is how we use design tenets again and again. So someone has a design idea. Like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if Clippy came up and looked like you're writing a letter? Well, we take that idea and we validate it against the tenets. We say, well, one of our tenets is straightforward is better than clever. This seems like an awful clever thing, and so we nix it. Right? We did this again and again and again in using the design tenets to help us make decisions. The final thing I would say about these are design tenets have to be religion. If everyone on your team doesn't know the design tenets, can't recite them, then people are going to make bad decisions. And we presented them humorously, we presented them seriously, We filmed me on video in people's inboxes, reading them to them. We did everything we could to get people understanding of the design tenets. So when the developer is sitting in his office at 3 a.m. making the code change and there's no designer there to look over his shoulder, that he makes the right kind of decision. That's what design tenets are all about. So then we had the design tenets, we had the research, time to move into the prototype stage. And prototypes, it's like you can do anything in the world. What do you want to do? We created so many prototypes. We have something like 50 or 60 gig worth just of pictures when I was looking through stuff to pick out to show you. 25,000 images alone. We have everything from scratches on the whiteboard, which are gone now, to elaborate flash prototypes. And these were designed to help us look at different ideas. A lot of them were sketches on paper. And unfortunately, a lot of our paper sketches are gone, got thrown away, got recycled. And so most of what I'm going to be showing you is pictures and Flash-based stuff and web-based stuff. But don't think that we did it all high fidelity. We did an awful lot of it low fidelity as well. So the first thing we did was conceptual prototypes. And these were designed not to be a full, like, what if you took all of Word and redid it, but like just to explore one specific little concept and see how it felt. And let me show you a couple of those now. So the first one I'm going to show you is called the configurator. Let me go into full screen mode here in IE. And so the idea behind the configurator was, what if you had a place that you went where you could sort of configure the way you were going to use Word? So I would say, well, the author of this is a team of people working together. I'm making a report. I'm going to end up making a file and a web page, and I'm going to print it. And you can see, as I choose these different things, of all the features in Word, some of them start to light up. So the idea was that only certain features would be available in each session. And I can say my objectives are reviewing this, and it's going to be for team and public use. And so then when you would go back into your main screen, only the features that you would need from each menu would show up. And as you would hover over each menu item, it would show the relationship of the menu item that you were on to other menu items. So if I went into the Insert menu, you can see that for page numbers are related to print layout and page setup and print, whereas date and time is related to a different set of things. And so this was like, maybe you can keep the old menus around, but you can just show the relationship between them a little bit better. That was the idea behind the configurator. The next one I'm going to show you is called fluid menus. And fluid menus were about a feeling. This is about the feeling of not having to click. So in here, all of the UI is off on the side, and you can see it's been split into File, View, Modify, Add, and Review, which I guess at that time seemed like an interesting thing. And these end up being very similar menus to what we have today, except the idea that we were exploring was sort of what was the feeling of exploring, what did that feel like when all you had to do was sort of hover over things to see sort of what it felt like, sort of organically growing UI. Would it make the product feel more simple? This sort of idea of simple, of fluid, excuse me. And this wasn't designed to take all the features in Word and actually rigorously figure out how it would work. It was just designed to put this in the lab and play with it and see how people felt about it. So another one that I'll show you is called the Strawman. And so this was one that again had menus, and this had some toolbars as well, but it also added an additional thing at the top that was called the parking space, which is this bar at the top. And it was designed to let you get between the different modes of the app. So as you use different kinds of features, more and more things would get added to the parking space, and you could sort of switch between them as you went. So if I choose the pivot table here, the pivot table tools show up, and I can switch to the pivot table tools, and I can get back to the main tools as well by clicking up here. It's a little easier to see in PowerPoint, where if I go Insert, Chart, and say OK, then I get the tools for New Chart right here, and I can switch between that and the other things. There's also this weird idea that you could maybe rearrange the menus alphabetically. So switch the menus, and now I've got like A through B menu, C through D menu, and this would make it maybe easier to find stuff, and then we show you the real menu where it lived over here. This, as soon as someone was like, well, how would you get to help? And they're like, well, duh, that would be in the G through H menu. And you're like, no, it wouldn't. It'd be in Microsoft Office Help. That's in the M menu. we realized that this was not a good idea.